You're welcome back to Business Money. Now, very quickly moving on to our second conversation, talking about shaping tomorrow's leaders, how vision-driven leadership is actually redefining influence, innovation, and nation building in Africa. Now, as Africa continues to navigate complex political, economic, and social transitions, leadership experts say the continent's future will depend heavily on a new generation of transformational, ethical, and innovation-driven leaders. One of the prominent voices shaping this conversation is the founder of a Living Leadership Academy, and whose work extends beyond the classroom into national dialogue, youth empowerment, and global leadership engagement. Now, in recent years, Africa has actually witnessed significant shifts, rapid technological disruption, rising youth unemployment, fragmented governance systems, and increasing demand for accountability. According to analysts, these realities are exposing deep gaps in leadership capacity gaps that require more than technical skills, but a reshaping of mindset, values, and character. Now, speaking on the evolving leadership landscape, the founder notes that a modern leadership must move away from power-based models and even embrace influence built on integrity, emotional intelligence, and strategic thinking. Now, sometimes he might emphasize that Africa's demographic advantage has more of that. Now, joining us is Joshua Triumphant. He is the founder, Living Leadership Academy. Good morning, Mr. Triumphant.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
So good to have you. Now, talking about leadership philosophy, right? What core principles actually guide your personal leadership philosophy, and how have they evolved over the years?
My personal leadership philosophy?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, where do I start from? All right, so at the core, it's a commitment to learning. At the base level, it's a commitment to learning. I believe strongly that leadership flows in the direction of the highest knowledge.
Okay.
So at the core, at the base level, is a strong commitment to learning. The more you bring new information into your life, the clearer you can see, the better you can act, and the more consistent your actions will be along the principles that create success and provide sustenance for your environment. So I believe strongly that it begins from learning, and then you can begin to build on that, a clear vision. The more, and vision in my own definition is about seeing people, places, and events, and situations and circumstances, not just the way they are, because anybody can deduce the way things are. It doesn't require any depth or any type of insight. But to see people, context, situations, or circumstances, whether it's nations, states, local, to see them not just the way they are, but the way they should be, or at least the way they can be,
right,
is the foundation of vision. And people who can see that can then lead people along that line. So a commitment to learning, having a clear vision, and being principle-centered, because perspectives and paradigms are always based on the context of your environment, your upbringing. They change from moment to moment.
Okay.
But principles are at the core of what is true and what is possible. So
yeah, it's very clear. It's very clear how you've been able to manage this information right up this morning. Now, talking about Africa's leadership gap, right? From your perspective, what are the most pressing leadership deficits across Africa as of today? And then what do you think is required to actually address them sustainably?
So there are a ton of things. There are a lot of things we can outline. So let me try to give a few things. One of it is, in itself, access to leadership education. I think that access cuts through access to leadership education within the academic system, access to leadership education within a family system, access to leadership education, within subcultural context in terms of how people grow up and how they are educated generally about life. And you will find that the pressure is high across board for, let's say, parents to focus on getting money and providing you with a few things as a child. And then there's failure on a lot of that end to provide some base level of leadership education that helps you, think clearly, communicate better, and things like that. So they get into academics and the fact that there is no proper leadership education ingrained into our academics. Really, just fundamental stuff like public speaking and strategic thinking and conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, things that form the basis of success really within value exchange environment. If you get into any space and you're unable to communicate your ideas properly, no matter what you know, you will not gain, you will not earn your due in those spaces for the most part. And so the fact that there are no access to that education tied into different sub-learning cultures, subcultures of learning is one of the to me is I think is one of the biggest issue. Leadership education is not even thought about at normal levels in terms of how important it is. And we seem to have a cultural prejudice to learning. And you will find that the person with the most knowledge is always laughed at, or is always talked about like you are just being intellectual. This is not. It's a normal thing within our cultural context to hear somebody say, "This is not about intellectual. It's not about intelligence. We are talking about practical, realistic stuff." And in the Nigerian context, that seems to mean something.
True.
But reverse is the case, right? So we also have a cultural aversion to learning, to education in some sense. All right. Yeah. So all these things play into how you will find that an average young person, an average Nigerian believe that just because they are in a position of authority, or just because they start a business, or just because they have money or influence at some level, that they have leadership ability or have leadership capacity. And it shows in how disorderly our society is. It shows in how unorganized and disorganized we are as a people, that there is no real proper leadership education as a system that flows through our academics, that flows through our institutions, that holds everybody accountable to build themselves, their leadership, and then transfer that knowledge into others. To me, at the core of it is access to leadership education, in terms of how important it is for success, for progress, and for joy.
Okay. All right. Now, talking about youth and the future and readiness, we all know that youths that have leadership education, they always stand out. There is this thing about them, so that's why we cannot overemphasize. We cannot put away the area of leadership in education. It is very important. But then, like you rightly said, it is not really happening. But then again, what mindset and competencies do you believe young professionals must develop to actually thrive in a rapidly changing global economy?
As a young professional, anywhere in the world, there are a few things within the corporate space or in terms of building your career that matters. It matters. It's essential. One of it is having a vision, or ability, at least being a visionary. And that's why I like to say that being a visionary. Because being a visionary means that you understand what it means to build something, to mobilize people, to manage resources, and then to deploy those things in the achievement of certain goals. So being a visionary means that within your corporate space or within your career, you see the role that you play as part of the overall group in terms of achieving what you achieve. Whether you work in the bank, you work in the oil sector, you work in the service industry, whatever space you're working in. Being a visionary means you understand what it means to get things done, to achieve things, to deploy resource, to deploy time in a given direction, and to achieve a goal. That you will find those type of people will always understand and align correctly with the vision of the organization that they're working in.
Oh, wow.
It is always people that have zero sense of visionary thinking that get into an organization and they are just disruptive for being disruptive sake.
True.
They are selfish they are just self-seeking, and they are just very problematic, and they are always having the us versus them mindset and pitching people against each other and being and don't align with the leadership structure within the organization and in terms of where they work.
Okay.
Right? So visionary, being a visionary, having a visionary mindset. Sorry?
All right, Mr. Triumphant, right. I'm talking about innovation and leadership. Innovation and leadership. How do you think leaders can balance traditional leadership models with the demands of a technology-driven, innovation-focused world? We know we are in an innovation-focused world right now. So how do you think that can outplay?
So the thing with leaders is they should be able to see the curve before they get there. That's part of what it means to having a vision. You're able to see the curve before you get there, and you're able to make adjustment and realign your overall focus to take advantage of technological innovations that has the possibility to disrupt your business. All right, the very popular stories of Nokia and Kodak becomes a warning and flashpoints for any young leader right now building anything. You know that one small business somewhere in Johannesburg or Kigali is building a technology or is disrupting the space that you are playing in enough to take you out of business. So when you see new innovation happening within your space, within your niche, within your business context, what you need to do is, as fast as possible, as quickly as possible, without any hindrance, your first response should be curiosity. I want to learn, I want to understand as quickly as possible what this technological innovation means for my business, for my NGO, or whatever space you're playing in. You want to be curious, which I talked about at the beginning in terms of a commitment to learning. You have to be curious about that technology, about that innovation. And then you begin to find ways to inject it straight into what you are doing. And of course, you have to pace it properly, obviously. But you have to find that curiosity opens you up to insights that you can inject into what you are doing, and it can make it better and quicker and faster. So that's, to me, leaders, unless you're not a leader, unless you are just winging it and just assuming your way through what you're doing.
But now this brings me to the area of ethics and character. Ethics and character. We're actually in a time when ethical breaches are becoming more common globally, right? So now, what does authentic leadership look like to you? Authentic leadership, what does it look like to you?
For me, at the center of authentic leadership has to be integrity.
Okay.
And to me, that word integrity is not in the popular way in terms of how people use it. Integrity to me has to be a straight line consistency between your values, your vision, and your pursuit and your goals, where there's a consistency in what you say, what you do, how you act, whether people are looking at you or not looking at you, whether they say you are integrated correctly in your values. You are that's to me what integrity means. You are integrated correctly. Okay. And the word integrity comes from the word integers, which means that you are a strong character. You are consistent in any condition, in any context, in any country, in any room. You are a character. That's you are consistent. All right. So that means that just because somebody offers you more money or somebody treats you in a different way, then you change your reaction or you change your outcome based on pressures here and there. And of course, it's easy to say, but what we find is that leaders who continue to remain consistent with their values outlast by a mile leaders who are shifting by trend and shifting by pressures here and there.
I agree. I agree strongly.
Long term, find that long term sustenance of leadership in any space is hinged on strong integrity that aligns between your character, your competence, and your capacity.
I agree
And something
strongly,
Reverend Sam,
Triumphant.
there's something Reverend Sam usually say.
Yeah.
There's something Reverend Sam usually say. Reverend Sam says, would you like a doctor a competent doctor who is a thief or who has bad character to treat you, or a not so competent doctor who is a good person to treat you?
Yeah.
Right. So what you find is that there must be an alignment between competence and character.
True.
And then that also aligns with your capacity to get things done.
Oh, wow. Okay, talking about nation building, right? What role do you believe strong leadership actually plays in economic development, governance, and even social stability?
Oh, I mean, everything rises and falls on leadership.
Okay.
Everything rises and falls on leadership at organizational level, in your personal life, and especially in the nation, right? It is almost impossible to lead a nation out of poverty, out of corruption, out of disorderliness, outside of leadership. It is almost impossible. It's almost impractical to even conceive the possibility of leading a nation out of ruins without a clear leadership framework that makes it possible, right? It is almost impossible because for you to do so, in terms of nation building, for there to be like a clear pathway out of this level of disorderliness and corruption and lack of infrastructure, there must be a clear leadership framework. And part of that framework will be there must be a clear leadership national vision. All right, there must be a clear national vision, and it's not just to pay lip service to a vision and say we have a vision 2050 or vision 2025 or vision 2020, which has gone past anyways, and say and list and make a list. No, there must be commitment to that vision. There must be actions deployed consistently in line with that vision. There must be a review of that vision. There must be, and those things are leadership framework. So, to answer the question, it is leadership across board, at state level, at national level, at federal level, at local level, and even at individual level. It's the only guarantee that a nation can develop and change its situation around for the better. It's only guaranteed. Only leadership guaranteed it.
Thank you so much for that. I think before my last question, I want to say concerning legacy and long-term impact, right? When you think about the future, what legacy do you hope to leave in the areas of leadership, personal influence, and even societal growth?
For me, in the last 10 years, my obsession has always been about how young people can, in spite of the environment that they are living in, this country, nation, whether across Africa as well, because the experience is almost the same, in spite of the context of our environment, we can tap into resources within ourselves and develop our leadership capacity and leadership potential and leadership abilities, produce value on the earth, trade that value economically, and then build a nation that we can hand over to our own children. That my own generation, our own generation of young people can, within the best of their capacity, right, make contribution to this country that works. And part of the commitment that we have to do that is to train at least 10,000 young leaders within the next 3 years. And that commitment has led us to set up a few things. The part of the community, the academy that we have running right now called the Leadership Academy. And I speak and train and consult across multiple sectors as well. So for me, that is the commitment. And that commitment is so important, it's so valuable that I'm calling as many people to come on board, in your own little way, build your leadership. In your own little way, get better. The better you are, the better the contribution you can make at your office.
True.
The better the contribution you can make within your family, the better the contribution you can make to those who rely on you for strength and for succor. So you have to, that's the call. Get better, build your leadership. And we must not look at leadership just as a position thing. We have to look at leadership as one of the few guarantees on the earth to help process things better. It's
Okay. All right.
leadership
All
that
right.
helps you
All
see
right.
things
All right.
correctly and process things better.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Triumphant. Just like your name implies, I know you want every youth and I mean to be a leader. You want to impart leadership to every youth, especially the Gen Zs right now. I know that if you have your way, you would do so much to impart a lot of leadership influence on them, so they can do so much more and satisfy, what you've been preaching and all along. Thank you so much for your time. We want to appreciate you for gracing a Business Morning this morning to, influence both the youth and adults that do need to have this leadership quality in them. So Nigeria and the global space will be better for it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's all we have for you this morning on Business Morning. Thank you for staying with us throughout the breakfast show. And after now, we will bring to you our big story. And don't forget that you should remember business decisions are stronger when backed by the right information. I'm Destiny Momoh. Stay tuned.